Hey guys, so in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the iPhone 3GS almost 11 years later. So the iPhone 3GS came out in June of 2009, so it's always been 11 years. So this is insane to actually have this phone in my hand, and I was about 7 when this phone came out, so I was really young. And interesting fact, this phone is nowhere to be found in South Africa. I believe we got the iPhone 4, but before that we didn't really have iPhones in South Africa at all. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure. So yeah, this is really cool to have this phone and just testing out and seeing how it looked, the software that's on here, the old, super old software that's on here. I was lucky enough to get this phone from someone who got it from their brother from, I believe, England. So that's how I actually have this phone here. So yeah, we're going to be taking a look at its specs and just how it holds up in 2020. Obviously, I'm not going to say you need to buy this phone in 2020. I would not recommend that at all. But just seeing how it holds up compared to like newer iPhones that we have nowadays, I think it would just be interesting to see. So at first glance, the design is pretty solid. I think it's pretty plasticky here at the back, so we have solid plastic here. And then actually just the shape is pretty comfortable to hold in your hand, and the size also, it's not that bad at all, I think, the size. So yeah, the design is pretty cool and familiar, I believe. So I mean, like up until 3 years ago, we actually used the same kind of design at the front with the home button and the big bezels at the bottom and the top. So that hasn't really changed until recently. So that's something that I think is really interesting to note. And then other than that, all the other design things are a bit different, but mostly familiar to iPhone users. So we have the unlock button here at the top, which I mean we usually had that at the top with the iPhone 5s, and then from the 6s and up we have it here at the side, so that's pretty familiar. And we also have a SIM card slot here, which is also here at the top, which is not usual nowadays. So we have that here at the top, and it's actually interesting to note that this phone does not have a removable back, which most phones did in 2009. So I think that's pretty interesting that they don't have a removable back. This one also has a headphone jack for people who continually complain about the removal of the headphone jack. If you want a headphone jack, buy yourself an iPhone 3GS, it has one. The bottom, you see you have the big charging port. It's gonna be pretty hard to find a charger for this thing, but yeah, it has a very interesting charging port here. Here at the left side, I think we have the most familiar design that we always have is the volume rockers here, and then also the silencing switch that we have. So that has not changed at all yet. So obviously like the silencing button is a bit different now and looks way cleaner now, but we still have the same kind of look. And like I said, the design in the front is pretty similar to like iPhone 8s, so that's not something I really changed. The size I think is actually really comfortable in the hand. I know this phone is quite thick, but I mean, I think it's a nice comfortable feel in the hand. It's not too thin that it feels like it's going to slip out of your hand, and the plastic also kind of makes you just feel, I don't know how to explain it. I guess I'm just not as scared to let this phone fall as newer phones, if I can put it out like that. The phone is 3.5 inches, so I mean, it's small, but it's really compact and it's still big enough, I think. It's pretty much the same size as budget smartphones nowadays. So yeah, that's basically all about the body and design of the iPhone 3GS. Now for the display of the iPhone 3GS, so looking at it, it's pretty old. I think the brightness, if you put it all the way up, it's not that bad at all, I think. I mean, if phones were still this kind of display, it's not bad. It's not terrible, especially for 2009. I have another phone, a Samsung Jet, that came out in the same year, in the same month, and the touchscreen on that thing is terrible. The amount of pressure you need to apply to actually click on something is just the worst. So compared to this phone definitely takes the win for that. So the display is not bad. It's 320 by 480 pixels. So yeah, the display is really not that bad for that time, but yeah, it's very pixelated if you compare it to phones now. Now for some other internal specs. So this phone came out with 256 megabytes of RAM. So yeah, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Nowadays, I mean, we have 4 gigabytes of RAM and up on just like budget smartphones even. So yeah, that's a little RAM. While using this phone, I mean, it handles the amount of RAM that it has very well. It's very fast, I think, for like 256 megabytes of RAM. So yeah, I think this phone really handles its speed well. It's obviously laggy a lot compared to phones now, but I still think it's quite a fast phone for 2009. Again, I had another phone, same year, same month, super slow. And iOS was still clean back then. I mean, this phone goes up to iOS 6.1.6, so it's 7 years late now compared to phones now. I mean, we're at iOS 13, iOS 14 is coming out this year, so yeah, that's something. It only has up to iOS 6, but still, iOS was super clean back then. Still pretty good compared to Android in 2009. The storage on this thing is 32 gigabytes of storage, which is the largest that it got on the iPhone 3GS. The base models were 8 gigabytes, so yeah, 32 gigabytes would still go for today. I mean, we still have a lot of phones that only have 32 gigabytes of storage, and with the camera on this phone, you're not gonna use that up very quickly. While we're on the topic of the camera, it has a 3.15 megapixel camera at the back, and it also records video, which is something that's really cool. So it has video for up to 480p at 30 frames per second. So yeah, that says a lot. 480p is what I watch on YouTube when our Wi-Fi is really slow, so yeah. But I tested out the camera, I took a few photos. I don't think it's terrible. Honestly, it's not terrible. You can still see what's going on the camera. It's just a bit blurry, I think. That's the only problem that I have with it, and foggy. But that's about it. Obviously, the video stabilization and whatnot, it was just not there. For 2009, I think that's pretty obvious. But yeah, so camera is not terrible for what it was. But yeah, that's just the camera that was on this phone back then. And also, it does not have a selfie camera, front-facing camera whatsoever. So you had to take selfies like this, obviously. Another thing that this phone does not have is AirDrop, which I think just wasn't available back then in software. And I just don't think the hardware on this phone would be able to take it as well. So yeah, Bluetooth back then was obviously the way to go. So it does not have AirDrop, but that's to be expected. Something weird that I actually liked about the 3GS is just the sounds that it made, like typing and doing different things. I don't know why, I found it very nostalgic. So sounds of the iPhone 3GS is still pretty good. But yeah, that's about all I have to say about the iPhone 3GS. I mean, there's not much that I can say about it. I still think it's a pretty cool phone. Again, I wouldn't recommend anyone buy this now, but I mean, it's cool to have. Like, that's the only reason that I want it, is just to have it because it's cool. But I hope you guys found this video interesting anyways. If you did, give this video a thumbs up and just comment down below letting me know what your thoughts are on the iPhone 3GS. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty old phone, so let me know if you had one maybe, or just what your thoughts are. Definitely subscribe to my channel by clicking on the icon on the screen or the subscribe button down below. And also, while you're down there, click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any other videos. You can click on the playlist to see all of my other tech related videos, and click on the video to my previously uploaded video. Love you guys so much, be weird and be proud of it. Bye.